One. Good evening, audience and staff and trustees. We are here this evening for our board budget subcommittee meeting. In this meeting this evening, we have Trustee Zhang and Trustee Prasad, as well as our student board member, Zion Khan. And for our meeting this evening, we will be reviewing questions on the board agenda for Wednesday, January 6th. And at this time, I would like to check with Mr. Abbasi to see if we have any public comments for our meeting.
CJ, no, I have not received any comments.
Thank you very much. So at this time, we can then open up the meeting for questions from our two trustee representatives, if there are any questions for our agenda on January 6th, and to our student representative as well.
So one question from my side, I'm looking at the budget development calendar. So is this pretty much standard? Are there any changes from last year?
So I can answer that, CJ and Marcus.
Can you state what the item number is when we go over these? So
oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's 10.3.
Right. Go ahead, Rais.
So no, this is pretty much same format every year. We slightly change dates based on the state budget guidelines, but pretty much it stays the same. It's a similar format and dates. We attend the budget workshop. We provide that information to Board of Education. Then we update Board of Education on a monthly basis. And finally, we do the public hearing and adoption of the budget. So the dates can change by a few days here and there. Otherwise, it stays the same.
Okay, sounds good. And then on 10.2, there's no, this is the $44,000 of this. Is this anything new here, or is it just the implementation of a previous plan?
Kelly, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I can. This is actually a new item, and it is something that is done periodically when you have bond programs. They are a third-party company who is going to come in and do an audit for us that is outside of our annual audit, and they're going to be evaluating the overall performance of the bond program, as well as the staffing and any schedule and progression of the bond from its inception through where we are right now. So this is just another sort of best practices for us to just check ourselves and make sure that we're on track, and that to give voters confidence that their dollars are being spent appropriately and as they've been identified when they originally voted for them. So
okay.
So we have used the same company before?
no, this is actually a new company, and we have another company that does our annual audit. But this is, it's kind of like when they make reference to chickens in the hen house, you know, and the fox, we're getting a separate fox than the normal fox that usually monitors our hen house. So we're getting an outside of the outside consult that we usually hire.
And from our understanding, this is the first time that we've actually done a really deep dive review of our bond program. So we are very excited to have this company come in and do this review of our program to ensure that we are utilizing best practices. And as Kelly said, we are being good fiduciaries of the public's money.
Okay, thank you. And then we're going to produce a report and share with the public?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
You all, of course, will have an opportunity to see that before we provide it to the public.
Thank you. Anything else?
And then as we go to the classified personnel actions, so these are standard stuff, but the layoffs. I'm sorry, I should have read through this before I got here. So there are 3 FTE being eliminated. one of which is just a vacant house. So I'm on item 11.2.
Yes, these are listed, and we do not have our HR team on this call normally, but these items are listed as part of our child development state preschool. And in most cases, that would indicate that it is a grant-funded position, and one of these is vacant. So that is where we would anticipate, based on the dates, that these would be at the end of the fiscal year closed out.
Okay, so this would add back some money. So, well, so are these, you said these are grant-based positions, so this will not necessarily add back any more money to your funds to hire other teachers. So,
I'm not certain they're grant funded at this, just by reviewing this, they very well could be, but if they are, they won't add back funding. And
okay.
if they're not, it likely would not add back much funding, in the sense that generally we have categorically restricted money that goes towards our special education preschool programs.
Okay. Now, from the regular agenda items, is there anything that actually impacts budget or dollars in section, in the 14 dot some section here?
Just, I mean, everybody else can comment. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me that really has a budgetary impact. I think all of those are presentations from what I can see.
Yeah, the one item that could in the future is the return to in-person instruction, especially based on the governor's most recent proposed plan. But as I will highlight in our board meeting on Wednesday, that really is only a proposal at this time. And there is a lot to be determined about what would actually be passed by the state legislators in terms of enacting his plan. So any return to in-person instruction may have a fiscal impact on the district, but until we know more from the state level, it would be too early to really have any concrete data on what that looks like.
Okay, but the schedule of the implementation, whatever the high level plan seems to be very aggressive there, right? And
yes, it is, and it's basically set up in the governor's proposed plan as a grant that districts would have to apply for if they meet certain criteria. But what will be a very significant development, in my opinion, in the coming weeks is when legislators return to session on January 11th. That will really be the first time that they have a chance to review the plan in total. We as superintendents or as the public have not seen a written document of the plan as of yet either. So it will be, I think, too early to determine how it may end up in a final product after it goes through the legislative process.
sounds good. Now, well, maybe this is a conversation we'll have separately. One other item I'm seeing here, 10.4. Does that involve, this is just to create an agreement, right? There's no dollars involved here.
That is just our agreement for asymptomatic testing for employees. And there are dollars involved there, but right now, in most cases, we anticipate that through curative labs, the insurance of the individuals being tested would be billed, and it would not be a cost to the district up front. There is a potential that we would need to cover the costs of any individual who did not have insurance. We don't expect that to be a high number, but that is possible. And generally, the current regulations allow for essential workers, which include those working in schools and in education sectors, to have that asymptomatic testing covered. So we don't expect to see a huge cost there, but we also have to wait and see what happens with the governor's plan, as we described earlier, because the governor has proposed certain requirements for student-based testing, depending on what tier we are in, what color tier. And that has been the first real discussion at the state level about a mandate for student testing. So that would be a little bit different because not all of the labs that are set up for doing employee screening are also, not all of them are set up for
Mhm.
student testing.
Okay. So I was speaking with some community member who said that there was a proposal to bring some equipment in on site for on site rapid testing and perhaps even a disinfecting station. This may be out of the context of this meeting here. But did that proposal ever come to the board?
The testing proposal is curative labs. That testing process
Yeah.
is in conjunction with a contract that the Alameda County Office of Education is using.
Right.
And that service is something that, depending on how we finalize our local plans within Fremont Unified, it could be done at school sites. We could identify, we have the responsibility to identify our own process. And part of the reason Curative Labs was selected as an agency is because it is a lab that would provide us the ability to do on-site testing where it could be self-administered by the individual themselves. And then it is, the samples are collected and returned to the lab via courier.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't think I have any other questions, Yaji.
I have a question. Since I think that the governor said that their plan is to open the school like in the middle of February, and when do we plan to send out survey to the special needs and up to 6th grade to see how many students intend to come back to school? Do you think this should be the time to send out survey?
I do think we should send out a survey soon, but I also think we have to remember that the governor's proposal is one that incentivizes a return to in-person instruction, but it doesn't mandate a return to in-person instruction. So there's no penalty if we aren't returning students by the middle of February. And in conjunction with a survey, we also have to make sure that we are working very hard at our negotiations tables to reach agreements with our employee groups around a return to in-person instruction. And we're in the process of that now. Part of that will include, as we've talked about, some survey work, not only for parents and students, but we also need to have a strong understanding of where our staff falls in this area. And the reason we need to understand where our staff falls in this area is because even in the governor's proposal, we are anticipating and expecting that distance learning would remain an option for students who elect to remain in distance learning. And we know that we will have staff members who may not be able to return to in-person instruction. And so we will have to identify how we can appropriately staff the in-person instruction and a distance learning model concurrently. And yes, I do think we should be surveying people soon, and that should be coming up in the very near future.
Okay, thanks. I don't have anything else.
So process related question. So is the budget subcommittee supposed to report back into the main board meeting from here, or is this just to have the right clarifications?
No, generally the board budget subcommittee does not report back out. On occasion, there are things that come up as discussion that trustees have shared out, but there's not a set agenda or area in the meeting where we specifically report out on this. This is a chance for our trustees to ask fiscal and facility related questions. And I also believe that in that process, it's also helpful for our public that are watching because depending on the agenda items, a lot of what is asked helps clarify the fiscal practices and priorities and helps create a more transparent understanding of what's happening for us from a facility and fiscal standpoint. I don't know, Marcus, if you have other input on that.
No, I think you stated that very well.
So basically, this is give the the public another chance, kind of second chance to dive into the details of the finance and the facility, and so that because the agenda is the same, right, as the Wednesday's meeting.
Yes, the agenda remains the same, and this is a chance for the trustees to ask questions of any items that are on the agenda, and for the public to have a review of that discussion as well.
I see. I was actually I thought that it's a closed session. So, yeah. Okay. But thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
So next time I'll do more homework before I come to this. Sorry, Sam.
No, sorry. I had a quick question about 10.3. So in terms of budget cuts and like decisions regarding that, where would that fall in this timeline?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because as Rais said earlier, this is more of just a standardized calendar that we use every year. But that budget reduction adjustment process that you are referring to will happen between January, and most of it will happen in February, the actual actions. And
Okay.
so.
All right, thanks. And then I think I had another question on 14.5. It's about the color scheme. Not necessarily related to budget, so I can ask on Wednesday, but just a super quick question if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So for 15.7, I think that's Hopkins. In the presentation attached, slide 7, it shows like the classroom 3D views, which look really good. The only thing is like it's all white. So I was wondering if the color scheme shown on slide 9, it would be on those buildings shown in slide 7, or how does that work?
You know, unfortunately, I don't have the full set in front of me, but there are only certain rooms that have like a wall that's wood or paneled as an accent. So it's not going to be a standard feature like in all areas. So if they showed you that rendering with that perspective in that location, that's specific to that space.
Okay. I'm referring to like the exterior of the building. So, and one of the things it shows that the exterior is like completely white, and then in the color palette slide, it shows that the exterior has like all these colors, which like obviously I would prefer because that's a lot more interesting for students. So I was wondering if
So the colors are going to be almost like I don't want to say like a spattering all over the place, but the way the panels are designed, they're going to have individuals that are going to be randomly sort of, you know, all over the place in a very coherent and cohesive manner. So, and the renderings are just that, they're only renderings. And so this is just a snapshot of what you all can expect. But prior to us actually doing the final install, the final color selection, there's going to be another opportunity for us to look at it again and actually see the physical materials. And so at that time, we're going to bring it back to you guys so you can have another opportunity to really see what it looks like. But I'm not fully versed or prepared to answer your question because I don't have the full spectrum of colors and the renderings in front of me.
Yeah, no worries. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't have any other question here.
Me either. So we'd call it a short meeting.
Well, I guess we can close it out then. All right. Well, thanks.
Meeting efficiency is good. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year to everybody.